Good morning, good day. GHK Lal on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Welcome to the National Outlook on Monday, November 8th. It is going to be a good day and a good week. Let's believe that. Let's aim for that and let's work towards that. We start this week, US 1.8 trillion yellowtail project. It's cheaper to dump produced water than to re-inject. Exxon tells EPA. You know by now that I don't really say much about oil. I leave that to the publisher and owner, Mr. Glenn Lal, and he does a fabulous job all by himself. But sometimes we've got to talk about it. From Sunday's newspaper, it's cheaper to dump produced water than to re-inject. This is what Exxon told our EPA. Mr. Routledge, the local country manager. Do we understand what he's telling us here? What this man comes from outside and tell us natives? It's economically inferior. That was the fancy phrase he used. Let me break it down. It's more expensive if they re-inject. So they dump it into our oceans. Exxon dumps that produced water. It's hotter. It's toxic. Salt content. Our fishermen are saying we are catching not fish, we are catching hell. Let me quote you from Sunday Kaieteur News. I feel last year and this year are worse than all other years. We aren't catching anything to clear our expenses. These guys are going out there and are not covering what they put out for fuel. I don't think they're even talking about labor. But Exxon is dumping produced water into our seas rather than to re-inject. My fellow Guyanese, very simply I put this before you. Do you think that Exxon would dare to do this in a country with white people? Do you think that Exxon, the CEO, Mr. Woods, the Guyana country manager, let's call him the Guyana CEO, Mr. Routledge, would dare to tell that to a country with white people? Hell no. He will not. They will take the more expensive way, which is to re-inject, if they've got no other way. But they're not going to dump that into that water because they will not be allowed to. There'll be a war. I mean, the environmental groups and the special interest groups will have a war. They will go to town. So, why is our EPA sitting down and listening to this bilge, this hogwash, this kind of garbage? Last week in Kaieteur News, we read about Exxon dumping sewage overboard. Well, now they are dumping produced water. What else are they are not going to dump on us? This is what Exxon does in countries where you have colored people, non-white people, black people, brown people, mixed people like me and you. And they get away with it because we have leaders who are in bed with them, naked and in bed with them. PPP leaders, PNC leaders, AFC leaders, civil society leaders, commercial sector leaders. So Exxon prospers and they prosper. And we get sick and our fishermen can't catch fish. And we have to pay more for whatever they bring in here, if they do bring in anything. And we've got to ask ourselves if these things are not contaminated. It may be downstream and far away, but don't tell me that it is untainted. Think about all these things. I'm GHK Lal. This is Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. This is the National Outlook.
anti-corruption fight at Kaieteur